The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome everyone to our actually second remote field service certification training. I apologize, I have a little bit of a cold today, so I hope you guys can hear me okay. My name is Katrin Burton. I'm the Global Service Cloud Lead for the partner organization. And I want to take you in 3 different sessions through all the study material that you need to pass this at a field service certification, and also learn a lot about the product, so you will be able not just to get certified but also start working on field service projects. So today is the first day. We should have about an hour and a half session. I am recording this session, and I will be posting the recording to the Field Service Experts chatter group in the partner community, as well as to GoToWebinar. So anyone who registered for this training will receive a follow-up email with the link to the recording that you can stream directly from GoToWebinar, or you can download it from the partner community. In preparation for this training, we ask you to let us know that you're Service Cloud certified, so Service Cloud certification is required to take the field service test. And anyone of you who registered and is certified should have received by now a field service training org that we are using in cooperation with our field service workbook for this implementation training. Another housekeeping item is, so what we are running right now with that workbook and in this training is based on a winter org. I know that the spring release is just a couple days out, and we are in the process of updating the training material to include winter features. I will actually present either today or tomorrow, depending on where the time is, details about the upcoming inventory management features. But the current org on the workbook should be run and used with the winter release and the winter managed package. So if you go now to download the managed package for field service, the spring release package is already there, but the workbook instructions are written for the winter managed package. I want to highlight that. If you have downloaded the spring release, you might run into a couple little hiccups when you try to do the workbook, just because the updates were not done yet and the release was not live yet when we created that version of the workbook. However, if you want to wait a couple of weeks with the workbook, we should get you the spring workbook probably in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so let's get started. These are the topics that are covered currently in the field service certification test. So by the way, the spring release features are not part of that test yet. That's why it's not an issue to use the current material if you're attempting to pass the certification. And all these topics here that you see here are broken out in these next 3 webinar sessions, and you will also learn about these topics by taking the Trailhead Trails and by completing the workbook. And here is our outline for the workshop that you will be going through. I covered this as well. And this is the slide I was just referring to. So this is the summary of all the important links and documents that you will need to study and to become an expert in field service lightning, putting an emphasis on the partner section down here where you can find that complete guide to field service on the bottom. So this is the document that you need to read to understand the questions that are in the test, the scenario-based questions. This is the exam preparation summary I just talked to you about, and here are the exam tips. I apologize that it didn't move forward, but you get the slides so you can read through them. All right, so now let's start with field service journey. And by the way, welcome Cheech. We have Cheech Moore on the phone with us today as well. So Cheech is going to be your contact for field service and service cloud enablement, and maybe Cheech, you can help me with some questions today if there's any questions that come up regarding a topic, and we can answer them throughout the webinar a little bit. Okay? Good. So running a field service organization is very, very complex, and customer support organizations have to have certain skill sets in their organization to deliver that high-level field service or personal customer service that field service requires. Field technicians have 6 times more touch points with the end customer actually that a salesperson does, because they are right in front of the customer. They see what the customer has in place, so what assets or products that the customer purchased. They should have access to see if the customer has a support agreement. They can interact on a one-on-one basis and need to be able to have the latest information at their fingertips, but they also need the ability to collaborate with their colleagues in the back office, to see, to get help and support, to see what work orders are being assigned and where the next appointment is. And there's 3 different key roles in a field service environment. So we have, of course, the customer, who's the center of everything, but then usually the journey starts with the contact center agent. So the contact center agent is usually a person in the office, a desktop user that handles incoming phone calls that will then result in work that is being scheduled and assigned and dispatched to a field technician. And for that contact center agent, we need Service Cloud. So any customer that wants to implement and install field service needs to have at least 1 Service Cloud license in their org. And then that contact center agent creates a work order that goes over to the dispatcher. So the dispatcher has the role of managing the field resources, making sure the right resources with the right skill sets and the right product and material are assigned to the right customer in the right location that is closest to that resource. And to do this, we are actually using a product from our partner Click Software that enables us to run scheduling and optimization with the best-in-class product. So Click Software runs scheduling and optimization for Field Service Lightning. And this is the managed package that you're seeing, that you're downloading when you're implementing Field Service Lightning. So with that, we are able to optimize the routes that the technicians are taking. We are giving the dispatcher a 360-degree view of what's going on in the field organization with our dispatcher console. And we are enabling this dispatcher to react to changes really quickly. Let's say a technician calls in, he can use the skills and the flexibility of our system to quickly reschedule other resources to that job that have the right material and the right skill sets and are the closest to that appointment. And then, of course, there's the field technician. This is the person in the field that needs mobile access to data. They need mobile access not just to customer data, so the address of where they have to go. They need access to the purchase history of that customer. They need access to route guidance, to geolocation data. They need access to product documentation, and they need access to complete their work cycle in regards of creating a service report, capturing a service a signature, and even closing out the cycle by signing a new agreement, signing a quote or a deal. And this is the whole life cycle we are going to review in the next 3 sessions. Do we have any questions yet, Cheech?
I just cleaned out the multitude of questions about your screen share being frozen. But one question was like, are the decks available? And I said they'll be available in the partner community, right?
Awesome. Yes. Yes. Everyone will get the link to the partner community in the follow-up email. So why are we doing this? When you start talking to your customers about field service, and actually I encourage every one of you who is working in Service Cloud scenarios to review if your customers have field service organizations. You will be surprised how many scenarios you will run into that where customers might have a need for this. The biggest challenges we saw when we started getting into this business and working with our existing customer base was that often the teams are siloed. So the teams in the field are separated from the teams and disconnected from the teams that actually are in the office and have the data about the ongoing issue, the installed product, the access to the articles, how you fix things. And then the technicians, of course, a lot of times are still running around with clipboards with pen and paper, and they're not mobile enabled. For the person in the office, inefficient scheduling is the biggest pain point, which results in a high cost of running a field service organization. If you don't know where is the best person to do this job and the closest person to do a job, and what is the availability. You might send a random person that results in longer fixed times, longer driving times, maybe not even having the right skill set or the right material at all to solve the job. And all these pain points we are addressing with Field Service Lightning. So when we start this journey, and let me click through the slide here a little bit. Okay, so when we start this field service journey, you will see that you have customers in different stages of running a field service organization, or in different stages of where they want to be and want to get to. The first stage, so getting visibility, is all about gaining visibility and control on how is my field service operation doing. We need to know the time to create and schedule, the time to create a schedule and dispatch technicians in this stage. We want to be able to book appointments. We want to be able to log task completion in the system. So the dispatcher wants to know, is the service done? Is the installation done? Is the repair done? And then we want to have somewhat insight into real-time analytics. So you will encounter a lot of customers that are currently in this stage. The next stage, so once they have that visibility to see what is going on in the field service organization, they want to get to the next stage and they want to be able to reduce operational costs. So once you have that visibility, you're ready to focus on cost containment. So you want to be able to better manage work hours and overtime. For example, overtime is always very expensive for a company. So by making sure you schedule correctly, you avoid overtime for your technicians. By giving them the right access to the right answers and knowledge on their mobile devices, they will be faster. They will be able to faster fix an issue, so you avoid overtime. Also, you want an operational cost to be able to manage mileage and gas expenses, which are huge for a field service organization. And then you want to save money by taking down the effort in the back office. So manual data entry that usually has to be done. Imagine if you have field service technicians with clipboards, and they come back to the office, someone has to enter all this data. So if you give them a mobile device and they enter the data on site, you save time in the back office as well. And that's where you first start to looking at dispatchers and schedulers, so you are taking a more efficient control of your workforce in the field. This is the second stage. The third stage is then, once you have contained costs and you have somewhat control over your organization, you want to optimize. So you know kind of where your technicians are, what the plan is for today, but because of changes that happen in the schedule or traffic or missing pieces on a technician's truck, you need to optimize the days or the work orders or appointments of your technicians throughout the days. So things happen that change the schedule. With optimization, you are basically able to save costs because you manage your resources better, and you manage them based on data that you have. So you have location data, you know what they have, where they are at. You have inventory data, so you know who has what part in their truck. And if someone is missing a part, you will know who else has that missing part, who is closest to that person. So with inventory management and with location services and traffic data, we are able to optimize the day of our technicians. And then once you have gotten to that point, the next stage would be to maximize the value of every interaction. So once the operation is optimal, you are able to really delight your customers. You are able to interact with them. You are able to give them shorter appointment windows, which is key for the customers. By being able to schedule better and optimize your resources, you're able to shrink appointment windows, let's say from 6 hours, and I'm talking about arrival windows. Imagine if you are, for example, an AT&T customer, if I book an appointment with AT&T for a technician, they give me an arrival window from 8 a.m. to noon. And usually the technician shows up 10 minutes before 12. So with optimization, you are then able to shrink the arrival time windows down to, let's say, 2 hours. That really delights the customer. You will be able to give your customers access into book their appointments themselves through a mobile application. They can schedule their appointment and they can change their appointment without the interference of another person, without having to make a phone call. And then through the optimization, you also will be in higher compliance with your SLAs, which is crucial for the customer relationship and can be cost saving as well. You have fast response times. You are able to fix issues quicker, and you give the technician, through the power of the Salesforce platform and the connected applications, the ability to upsell and cross-sell. So you can turn a service center, which is usually a cost center, into a revenue center by enabling your technicians to sell service contracts or replacement parts. And this is how you are able to disrupt and differentiate, delight your customers, and differentiate your position as a field service provider. Okay, so next slide. Here we go. Okay, so Field Service Mobile is designed to be a tool for field service. Field Service Mobile, and you will experience that when you start implementing, it's a beautiful tool. Our mobile app is very intuitive, and it's designed to really work offline. Offline capabilities are key. We have a lot of customers that have technicians in the field where there is either no cell phone reception because they're in a rural area, or they're in buildings in basements where they have no reception. They might be in hospitals where cell phones are not allowed. So giving that field technician the ability to have access to all the data they need to get a job done in offline mode is key. And our iOS and Android apps are leading with that functionality. We are connecting the technician to the resources in the field. We're using collaboration and chatter to communicate with an expert in the office if the technician has any questions, or between each other. So the technicians can use chatter in the mobile app to communicate. We are using the best-in-class scheduling and optimization tool from Click Software to optimize what the technicians are doing throughout the workday. This is a screenshot here of the dispatcher console, and this is what you will be configuring in the workbook. And we are able to deliver everything that you need with the power of the platform. So Service Cloud is running on the platform, and Field Service is running on the platform. So you are able to connect to other applications, for example, CPQ, if you want to enable the technician to create a quote on site. But through the power of the platform, we are also able to punch out into other applications that you might use that are not Salesforce related. So for example, the technician could take payment using Square. Yeah, so, and we're using Google Maps for route guidance. So it's a very, very powerful tool that gives field technicians and field organizations all the tools they need to do their job well. Oops, here, I had an extra slide in here. So let's now take a look at the architecture. I talked a little bit about Click Software in the beginning. So Field Service is a native Service Cloud and Salesforce solution that includes offline mobile capabilities. But the managed package from Click Software that you are uploading when you implement Field Service Lightning is also fully running on force.com. And it delivers a native field service experience. So it doesn't look like you're in a different application. Everything is running on the platform. And the optimization that Click Software delivers is world-leading scheduling and optimization technology. So this is what really makes your field service organization run on all cylinders. And we are using Google Maps to get geocoding data for routing information. So this is the combination of applications that are coming together on the platform to create Field Service Lightning. On the object model, so these are the core objects of Field Service Lightning. And by the way, by now, Field Service Lightning has, I think, 72 standard objects. So it is a very complex product that keeps growing, and that's why we need to make sure you guys know what this product can do and what is included in the object model. So these are the core objects. So when a job comes in and then a mobile resource needs to be scheduled, a work order is being sent out and created. We have the service appointment as the core. The service appointment is related to the service resource. So the technician that is taking on work and is getting work orders assigned is called a service resource. This is based on the actual user in the system, and you need to provide the correct licenses, which I will show you in a couple minutes, to create a service resource, so to create a field technician. And then these service resources are assigned to service territories. So once you have this done, you create a user. From that user, you create a service resource. You assign a service resource to a certain service territory. And a case comes in, and a work order is created from the, let's say, from the agent in the call center, and then that work order turns into a service appointment that is being dispatched out and then being managed or solved by the service resource. So these are the core objects that we are getting started with. And this is exactly the way you set them up when you go through the workbook. The service territory is used to group resources. It's not just a geographical location. You should think of the service territory more as a team or groups of resources that can work together. It can be geographical, so you can say I have California as my service territory, but it can also be a team, like an internal sales team in a showroom could be a service territory. So you group them together. And a dispatcher can manage multiple service territories. Often they are modeled around geographies, but not always. So when we get started with the workbook, there is a theme that goes through the workbook, which we call Green Energy Solutions. And in that workbook, we take you through a story and you build out a scenario for a company that runs a field service organization. Here are the prereqs. So everyone should have received it. Everyone who's Service Cloud certified should have received a training org login. If you did not, please connect with me. And when you do start working with the workbook, there's a couple of prerequisites you have to do. I think the workbook still says turn on Lightning. If you create an org now, Lightning is already enabled. You have to go through the pre-work first before you start with configuration. You have to upload the managed package. Please remember to use the winter managed package for this version of the workbook. And then you create permission sets, you update sharing rules in there, and just start going through the workbook beginning to end. And you will build out a full functioning field service organization. So this is the customer, Green Energy Solutions. They specialize in solar system installation and repair. They have offices in San Francisco and Los Angeles. But they also have a showroom with showroom employees that are selling solar systems. So when you build this out, you do not just want to schedule people in the field that have to go on site and repair and install. You also want to be able to schedule your salespeople to have appointments with potential clients in a showroom. And this is what I meant with making sure you're assigning the people to the right service territories. And here are a couple of challenges we are running into. So that company is going through a change. They have been growing. Their external and internal teams have been growing over the last couple of years. And as the team gets bigger, a single person cannot just schedule them anymore without support of a tool. So they need to be able to provide better and faster service. They see a trend that poor work quality has increased. So possibly perhaps the technicians don't have the right information that they need to fix something, or they don't have the right tools to fix something. And then the showroom appointments are often booked when consultants are in other meetings. So they're not using a smart tool to schedule appointments for their salespeople either. And that all resulted into declining profit margins, and now they decided to implement field service Lightning. So this is the story that takes you through the workbook. So we already talked about this side of the object model, but there is more objects to it. With our two territories, so San Francisco and Los Angeles, we have a showroom in each territory, and each city has a different dispatcher monitoring the activities of the teams in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. But now, because the demand is rising so much, they also want to plan to outsource work to contractors, but only maintenance work. And the field employees are full-time employees. They should be permitted to do overtime work. So you are going to configure all these different topics in the workbook by going through it step by step. So now let's take a deeper look at additional objects we work with here. So Field Service Lightning was built with a flexible object model that can be used in many different ways. The service appointment is a parent record to work order line items, but also to account, opportunity, and asset. And for Field Service Lightning, we fully utilize the parent object relationships, because we want to be able to have insight from a service appointment in anything that impacts the service appointment and is related to that. So the work order and work order line items, for example, they hold work types, and they are able to drive scheduling of service appointments with that. The book appointment and other functionalities will be enabled through global actions. So you can directly from the work order create a new appointment by the click of a button. And work order line items will normally represent one job that needs to be done for one customer that will be built. So the best practice is that each resource that is on site will have one work order line item assigned for a job that can be closed out in one day. If another resource arrives on site and is unable to complete the work order for any reason, the service appointment should be marked as incomplete. And then other resources will be sent out, or another service appointment might be created for that same work order to finish the work the next day. So if a job requires multiple visits or resources, then work order line items should be used to represent each visit or each stage of the work that needs to be done. So each work order line item should have its own service appointment if you cannot close out a work order in a full day. But this often comes down to you meeting with the customer and go through their requirements and look at how their processes are working currently. Best practice is to have a work order line item assigned to a service appointment so you can close out the service appointment if the work order line item is done. Okay, so now work types. So work types are time-saving templates. There's chances that your business performs the same tasks for multiple customers over and over, every week, every day. So work types are work order templates that save you time and make it easier for you to standardize on your field service work. When you set up work types, you can, for example, automatically add a service appointment to new work orders or work order line items associated with that work type. So you don't have to manually create the service appointment. It's being added through the work type. You can also configure due dates or auto-create service appointments by indicating how many days past a created day the due date should fall. And the details are copied from the work type into the work order. So the work type is the template that you use to create work orders around very similar jobs, basically. And a couple examples on what details you can copy or on that template are duration, skill requirements, parts required, or due dates connected with SLAs will be directly copied into the service appointment. So it helps you as a dispatcher to create things faster and run your organization more efficiently. The skill comes in here as well. So skills are also part of a work type or that template, but skills are always time-based, or they should be. This could be, for example, a certification a technician has that might be running out, or a skill that would need retraining in a year later because the product has changed. So when you create these work types using these templates, you should make the skill time-phased or time-dependent, and make sure your resources stay up to date with their skills. Yeah, so this was this. Let's see, next one. Now, service territory and operating hours. So service territories are used as groupings for service resources, as I mentioned in the beginning. And these can be resources in a specific geographical location, or different departments of resources that might work together in one location. For example, Green Energy Solutions in Los Angeles has field technicians and they have showroom employees. So each team of resources is totally different and they're not interchangeable. So defining the right service territories is crucial for the scheduling the work properly. And you have to make sure that that person belongs to either one service territory or the other one. Questions you need to ask your customer are, for example, how do they currently group and manage their resources when you go into the discovery meeting? What are the different teams they have in an organization? And which teams need to be dispatched and managed together? Operating hours should drive the scheduling, and they are used for resource availability hours, so the hours that each resource works every day. The operating hours are also used for appointment booking slots. So when booking appointments, we offer the customer slots of times in which we can commit a resource to being on site or arriving at the job site. So for example, Tuesdays from 9 to 11 or from 11 to 1. And then operating hours can also be used for visiting hours. So if a customer has specific hours of which work can be done at a site, so, and I'm talking visiting hours for a technician on a client site. So their office might not be accessible after 8 p.m., so the technician would not be able to get into the building. This is what I would use as a visiting hour when you define service territories and operating hours. Now to service territory members. So assigning a resource to a service territory is done using service territory members. And the service territory members define the type of allocation to a territory. So a resource can be allocated to a territory as a primary, a secondary, or a relocation resource. So my primary territory might be San Francisco. This is where they will schedule me first. And but I also, depending on circumstances, if there is a need, might be able to do work in Oakland, which is more further driving. So I can assign this resource a second territory or secondary territory of Oakland. And then relocation is a time-based allocation where we relocate a resource, let's say to Southern California, to Los Angeles, to do jobs there. Are you guys seeing my slides? Are they forwarding or not? Let me see. I just got a message. I'm sorry. They are forwarding on my... They are. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. So, for example, a relocation resource would be relocated for 6 months to Southern California, which is a very different territory. Now, the scheduling engine goes based off the relocation address to schedule this person and not off the home address of that resource. So all these allocations, so primary, secondary, or relocation allocation, they have a start and finish date. And the relocation allocation requires the finish date. The other ones can have they all have a start date, but they don't have to have for primary and secondary. That does not need to be a finish date. So this was this set of objects. So now here, this is a scenario, and I wanted to give you this example of our field service guide. This is a scenario that is explained in there with a situation and how do you address this with our objects of a work order. I won't read through these. I just wanted to show you what they look like. I highly encourage you to read through these because these are in the test in very similar scenarios. So there will be a situation, and then the question will give you several scenarios on how to address that situation in certain order as well. So read through that implementation guide for field service lighting and read these situations and how to address this with our products. This is key. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about best practices you have to keep in mind when you build out your work order processes. And a lot of this will make more sense when you have completed the workbook. We start with creating a new work order, and we need quick actions on assets, cases, and accounts to do that, or this is the best practice. You would add quick actions on a case, for example, to create a work order, or you can put them on an asset, so on a product that might break and or need service to create a work order, but you can also put them directly on the account. And when you set up the quick actions on work orders, that automatically updates the new work order on the account, asset, and the contact fields to match the parent records. If your org uses hierarchical assets to track specific subtasks that are more accurately by associating the work that has been done with a work order line item, it is key that you use hierarchical assets. So imagine you have a refrigerator and the pump in the refrigerator is broken, not the whole refrigerator. You want to make sure that the pieces that need repair have a hierarchy or are visible in the asset hierarchy, and then you create a work order specific to that smaller asset, that piece that needs to be fixed. So you can create more accurate job descriptions, you can more accurately look for related articles, and you can more accurately determine who has the right spare parts in their trucks to repair what is broken. Okay, so that's about work order processes best practices. In the workbook, you will find the following scenarios. So we have Los Angeles, we have the showroom in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the field technicians in San Francisco and in the showroom. And we want the ability to also add contractors to the mix here to expand our technical workforce. The field employees should be focused on working during regular working hours, and when work is supposed to be carried out after working hours, it needs to be permitted, and in a regular day the work stops at 8 p.m. So this is the scenario you're going to build out. Here is a screenshot that will show you, that will help you with the configuration. So it shows you the operating hours, and it shows you the time slots, it shows you after work hours, and in the exercise you will go through how to configure this, how to create this, and how to modify this. Okay. Here's another screenshot that shows you the different territories. So here you have showroom San Francisco, showroom LA, and the technician territories, the field availability hours, and the parent territories. These are just some screenshots I put in there, so when you're going through the configuration you have some guidance on what your configuration should look like. Okay, now let's get into skills and work types. So back to the object model. We already discussed this slide, I think. Yeah, we talked about work order, work type, and skills. Yes, so to summarize, work types are templates that help you copy data like duration, skills, skill requirements, part requirements, and due dates onto the work order, and skills can be time-phased. So the skills and work types in the workbook include the average time to complete or no, the work types in the workbooks include the average time to complete the work should be 90 minutes. connect to the grid should be 150 minutes, repair should be 60 minutes, and maintenance should be 30 minutes. So these are typical things that you will add into your configuration, so you run with the right SLAs when scheduling the agents. And here's a screenshot. So when you configure skills and work types, you can, for example, differentiate by expert, installer, and contractor. And that helps you to determine what resource is being assigned or should be assigned first to a work order. And then we come to service resources. So on the object model, we already touched on service territories and service resources, but it goes deeper. So the service resource record compares service resources, capabilities, absences, and skills. And it shows the territories the resources belong to and the service appointments they're assigned to. You can also see which accounts or work orders list resources as preferred resources. So there are checkboxes in there where you can determine a resource as preferred resource or a resource that should not be going back to the customer. And you assign skills to service resources to indicate which type of work they can perform. You can also add required skills to work orders and work types, so only resources with that certain skill set can be assigned to complete that work. And before you create a skill, you have to configure the skill settings. The workbook takes you through that step by step. But don't forget to add the skill-related list to the field service page layouts and specify who can view the related skills. To get started with skills, you create basic skills in your org. And when you assign the skills to service resources or mark them as required on work orders and work types, you will see the skills visible on the work type, and you will see on the related list, for example, of the service resource, the skills that are assigned to them. You can also add skill details like skill level and duration. So you might have resources that are higher skilled for a certain work to be done than other resources. And when you assign these skills to a service resource, they can also represent certifications or an area of expertise. So this is skills. A little bit more about resources. So the assigned resource object is managing which service resource is assigned to a service appointment. You can assign service resources to an appointment via the assigned resource related list. So all the objects that you're working on, keep attention, especially if you're doing it already in Lightning, to the related list tab. It's not below the data anymore, below the details anymore. It's a separate tab for the related list items. And if the parent record is a work order line item, or an account, check the parent record for any resource preferences that you can define. To access assigned resource records, you need access to service appointments. So if you don't see the assigned resources, check the sharing in the org. You can track your assigned resources with geolocation breadcrumbs, but you can also exclude resources from geolocation tracking, which is important in certain countries. For example, in Germany, you're not allowed to track field technicians with geolocations. Previously, you had to enable geolocation tracking, but I think now it's turned on by default, so you have to exclude the service resource from geolocation tracking now in your org if you need to do that. Okay, so the resources for green energy, we are running different kinds of resources there. So we have the installers that are trained to install and do maintenance work, and several employees are experts that are versed including in different type of works that they have to deliver. So they are experts, and they can include connecting to the grid and do repairs. So these are the different skill levels. Here's a screenshot of the resource setup. So you have your service resource, Ellen Reed. Down here you have calendar, skills, and capacities. So when you configure make sure you click through the tabs here so you can see the different things that can be changed here. And yeah, you will go through the process of setting this up correctly with the workbook. Okay, now to territory members. I know we already touched on this a little bit. So service territory members define which territory a resource is assigned to. We define the home base, the operating hours, and the allocation. So I talked about primary, secondary, and reallocation already. And there's always a time frame related to an allocation. So let me see. So in the workbook, we have Los Angeles and San Francisco, and each have fields, 4 field technicians, and there's 1 expert in each city when you go through the workbook. Here's a screenshot of the service territory allocations that will help you to verify your configuration. So this is what it should look like. You have your Los Angeles territory, and you have your San Francisco territory, and here are the resources assigned to that. By the way, if you should have no data in your org, you might have used an org where we did not install, we have a trial first template installed in all training orgs. If you see missing data, please connect with me. We had this happen with one student last year. He spun up his own org, and if the data is not in there, you cannot go through the workbook. So please connect with me if you don't see these resources in your org here. Okay, so this was a general overview about the key and main objects you will be dealing with when going through the workbook. I want to give you a quick insight into the licensing and into how do you enable actually your resources to have the right access to the right tools. So we have 3 different licenses now. We have a dispatcher license, a technician license, and a field service plus license. No matter which one you need, remember you need at least 1 Service Cloud license in your org to even get started with this. The dispatcher is the one that runs optimization and schedules the field team, and here's the list prices. Please talk to our Salesforce AEs on the accounts to get more detailed pricing information. I just show you list prices here. We have the technician, so this is the person in the field that needs mobile app access. That's the person that is to be scheduled. So this is the person who does the scheduling. They need a dispatcher license. The person who wants to use the mobile app and wants to get work orders assigned is the field technician, and they need a technician license. But, you know, we always make things more complicated. We also have a field service plus license. So the field service plus license combines Service Cloud and Sales Cloud and dispatcher and field technicians with the ability to add CPQ. So that means these resources have the ability to schedule people, but also to be scheduled in one. So they can be a dispatcher, but they can also act as a field technician. And they have the ability with Sales Cloud to create leads and opportunities. And through CPQ, which is an add-on product, so this is not included in this price here, they will be able to create price quotes and basically close out the sale right with the customer, capture signatures and close deals. So these are the internal user licenses. We also have the need, or our customers have the need to extend their workforce to contractors. Very common scenario in field service. So there's a contractor and a contractor plus license available. These are community licenses basically. And one is the customer community license, the other one is the partner community license with a couple additional features added. So the contractor license enables you to be a field resource, a technician that subcontracts and wants to be scheduled. With that license, you have access to the mobile app, you have access to knowledge articles, you get work orders assigned. The dispatcher can schedule and optimize you. We can track your inventory. And yeah, but if you want to be able to upsell and cross-sell, you need the Contractor Plus license. So this is basically giving you access to also create a lead or an opportunity when you're on site with the customer. We do not have, one question I always get is, can a mobile user also dispatch on a mobile device? So currently, no, we do not have the ability for either a contractor or someone on on a mobile device to also dispatch. So the dispatcher license is required, and you need to be in the office in front of your computer right now to run the dispatcher console. The contractors cannot dispatch. They can only act as a field technician. If for some reason a contractor needs to have the ability to also dispatch people, you need to give them a full dispatcher license. Okay, that's that. And this is how it plays out under the hood. So we have our field service dispatcher license and we have the field technician license. And this is what you're doing in the workbook. So you make sure you assign the right licenses and the right permission sets to that user. So a field service lightning dispatcher needs a full Salesforce license. They are also a Service Cloud user, so Service Cloud checkbox is checked. And they have the permission set field service dispatcher. So you need to make sure you assign this permission set to that user. If you turn someone into a dispatcher, don't forget to assign the field service dispatcher permission set, otherwise you will not see the dispatcher console. And then on the technician side, they also require a full CRM license, and they have a permission set license for scheduling, and they have a permission set license for accessing data through the mobile device. So if you create a new service resource from a user, make sure you assign these permission sets to the user in Salesforce so they are able to connect with the mobile app and they're able to be scheduled. The workbook takes you through this. And here's the more complicated one. So here's the Field Service Plus license. So you have the full CRM license, you have a feature license, which is the Service Cloud user license, and then you have a combination of permission set licenses. So dispatcher, mobile, and scheduling. Just keep in mind the dispatcher console needs to be run off a computer and not off a mobile device at this point. Here I outlined a little bit more in detail the object access you have with the different licenses. So the Service Cloud license, which is included in field service, gives you access to case management, the console, workflow and approvals, call scripts, email response, service contracts and entitlements, and up to 100 custom objects. So you have this as a dispatcher anyways. The dispatcher license gives you work orders, the dispatcher console, advanced scheduling, assets, cases, and 100 custom objects. And then the technician license gives you the mobile app, the ability to be scheduled, work orders, cases, assets, but now also parts and inventory and van stock, which we will cover on Tuesday, and up to 100 custom objects. So this all turns into the Field Service Lightning Service Plus license that combines everything with the ability to also add on CPQ. So this was that. Here's the contractor license broken down. So the contractor is a community, customer community plus user license. And you have the permission set of mobile and scheduling to enable this resource to be scheduled. So you get customer community plus features, access to field service objects, you are schedulable, and you have offline access with the mobile app. And if you use the Contractor Plus license, you actually get a partner community license. With these two permission sets, you get all the partner community features, you are schedulable, you have the mobile app, plus you get the ability to cross-sell and upsell, create leads, opportunities, and price quotes if you have the CPQ license. Yeah, so here's a note on the side note. So field service technicians, contractors, and partners require at least one dispatcher, of course, in their org. Otherwise, no one can dispatch or schedule the technicians. This is just a screenshot of the setup. Some of you might have stepped ahead and already done that. We are guiding you actually really nicely now on how to set up the right permission sets for the right users. So this is all in the workbook. Let me do a time check. And this is a list on how you assign the permission sets in the workbook. So you're going through that step by step. I also included this slide. This is a neat slide to take with you into customer meetings if you want to explain all of this to your customer. This outlines really nicely what is included in which license. Okay, so this was the core object model, and now I want to cover a couple Service Cloud related objects that are in that test that you might need a little refresh on. So about 5% of the test could be asset-related questions. And when I took the test, I think it was, I had at least 2 asset questions in there. The test, by the way, is 60 questions, and you have, I think, an hour and a half time to do it. You can do it in the test center, or you can do it at home with the camera that monitors your screen, your keyboard, and your face. Setting that up can be stressful. So if you have a test center nearby, go to the test center is my advice. So, but why is assets in there? So we basically want to have the ability to have history, service history on products a customer bought, purchase, but the technician needs purchase history as well. So we need to expose data on what products were bought and are installed at the customer site. And this is the asset. And we want to be able to manage repair. We want to be able to manage maintenance on that asset. We want to be able to track what installations or repairs were done on that asset. That's why we included the asset into the objects used in Field Service Lightning. So quick recap. So with the multi-tiered asset hierarchy, agents must be able to track the information about your customer's products to gain insights which customers own, not just your own, but also a competitor's product. And we want to leverage the asset hierarchy to track products that are made out of different parts, like the refrigerator and the pump. And we can do this all in one view with our new asset hierarchy. So that 360-degree view allows the agents to spot cross-sell and upsell opportunities, as well as predict potential service needs based on multiple parts, based on repair history, and based on update asset update data that they can receive with the work order attached through a knowledge article. So this is why we have assets in there. This is just a little bit about assets in general. So you should add assets as a tab so they have quick access if needed. They didn't ask about stuff like this, like the numbers and limits here, but just keep that in mind in case there is a question. And an asset hierarchy can contain up to 10,000 assets. And we are using entitlements, and agents can view the ability to support an asset based on service contracts and warranties that are related to the asset that is on site. Okay, so that was assets. A little bit about hierarchical assets. I cannot even say the word. So this is was released, I think, about a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago. So we are now able to manage complex products on a deeper level. An asset can have up to 200 child assets and 50 levels for the hierarchy. And with this, we give the user the ability to pinpoint what needs repair, what needs servicing, where do I need to pull up knowledge articles from. There's always a parent asset field and a root asset field. This is how you build out the hierarchy. And here are a couple ways of how you can use the hierarchy to improve your support. So when you're creating a work order for a broken asset, you can create line items that pinpoint directly to the child asset that is broken. Oops, here was one more. And for the scenarios where we have the work order created from the asset, we can set up workflow rules or processes. Sorry, pop up. Here, from the work order line item for each asset. I go back to presentation mode. So I clicked on something. All right, yeah, we're back at the right slide. Okay, so there was one question in there about a bill of material. So what is a bill of material? The bill of material is the list of the parts or components of a product that are required to build a product. So this is basically what is building up your asset hierarchy. It is a multi-level document that provides data for multiple purposes. One of them is showing exactly what is in the product contained and what is going to and what needs fixing, basically. But we are using the bill of materials to transfer this directly to the asset hierarchy in Salesforce. Okay, so this was assets. Let's look a little bit at contract entitlements and warranties. So a little higher weighing in the test, about 8% of the questions could be entitlements and warranties. And we need this to manage SLAs, for example, but also to provide specific service to customers that are entitled to higher level support. To understand if you need a refresher on entitlements, there is entitlements, here's a trailhead entitlement management. I put the link in there. And in the partner training catalog, there is an online module that is called Administering Entitlements. So if you never touched entitlements and you want a speed training on it, take the Trailhead Trail and look at that online module. I think it's 30 minutes, and you have the foundational knowledge that you need to answer the test questions correctly. However, if you're in prospect of working on a project, I would highly encourage you to set up entitlements in your org. Following this, the Administering Entitlement online module has guided setup scenarios, so you can follow someone on a screen setting it up and do it in your org. I would recommend that for sure, then you really understand entitlements. Yeah, and these could be the 2 or 3 questions that make or break the test, right? Okay, so our service contracts and entitlement solution is a solution for service organizations that helps to reduce cost, but also generate revenue, because once you implement SLAs, you're more likely to be able to sell service contracts to your customers and actually make money. We define time-bound or multi-step service level processes and are able to really monitor these processes in real time. We're using workflows and notifications for that, and we can escalate things if we are about to miss a milestone or miss an SLA. So once you implement entitlements into your org, the technician now and the agent, so the field technician and the agent are able to see the milestone timer in their org to see that they're about to miss a milestone, about to miss an SLA. So the entitlement can be used to manage the expectations of the customer and manage processes for contact center SLAs or service engagements. They can even go manage project management SLAs and internal back office processes. For those who don't have contact centers and want to leverage entitlement functionality, it's very easy to just set this up on a case, on the case record. And the benefits here are really that we are able to deliver better customer service. We are able to monitor SLAs and send out warning messages if we're about to miss an SLA. We can increase revenue for the client because they're now able, since they're monitoring and adhering to SLAs, they're now able to sell service contracts. And we get more better visibility into the profitability and certain bottlenecks. So when you see in certain areas of certain technicians or certain products, you're constantly close to missing SLAs, you know that you need to improve a process and need to address the issues. So when you look at entitlements here, we let you manage the agent and the field technician, and we are able through the agent to create and maintain service contracts for your customers. And the field technician has insight into if a customer has a service contract, so they can use that as a cross-sell and upsell opportunity. We are also able to specify unique service levels for each customer or for certain customers. So for example, your service technician in San Francisco has operating hours from 9 to 5. These are the operating hours. They are set, and this is how he's supposed to be scheduled. If a client has entitlements to extended hours, the entitlements on that product or that service agreement will override the operating hours set to schedule that technician. So you are able, by using entitlements, to provide different levels of service to different kinds of customers. So if you're a gold customer, it entitles you to have technicians there after 5 o'clock. And the entitlement is actually in the whole scheduling process, that one thing that overrides the operating hours for that field technician. That's the most common use case. Okay, so this is just a screenshot from the setup module. So we have entitlements only, entitlement service contracts, and service contracts and line items. And this is coming up in a question scenario. So you need to understand what the options are and what each one of them supports and what they don't do, or how in what scenario would you apply entitlements only, or when would you apply entitlements in a service contract, and when do you need to get down to the line items. So line items, for example, you want to manage service contract details or track support on product line items. Then you need the line item one. So go through and study this. This is the setup process. They're not going to, I don't remember, I don't think they were asking about how to set this up, but I want to encourage you to go through it and set it up at least one time, because that will make you understand everything better. Okay. What else do we have here? So recurring milestones allow milestones to repeat itself in an entitlement process. So when you go through the setup process here, where you create a milestone and then you create an entitlement process, you define the milestone, or you add the milestones to the entitlement processes. You will see that you have the ability to have reoccurring and non-reoccurring milestones, and there's different reoccurrence types. So this takes you deeper into entitlements. The scenarios did not go into that detail. I added this slide here to complete your understanding of entitlements, and to go back here when you're setting up entitlements to make sure you set it up correctly. Okay, so this was entitlements. Now let's look at the entitlement connected with the appointment booking slots. This is what I already mentioned. Entitlements are going to influence the operating hours that we have set for our field service teams in our territories. So we are using entitlements to override the operating hours, for example, to provide customers better time slots for technician appointments. So the higher the entitlement is, the better operating hours they will have, or the longer operating hours they will have for technicians. Here's a couple best practices when implementing entitlements. So you display entitlements and service contracts always on the related list throughout the application. So you should see entitlements on an account level, but you can see them also on a product level, on an asset level. You have to add entitlement fields to the case and the work order page layouts to ensure you see them. You have to check field level security, and you need to do this to have the case timer show up and to include the entitlement into that, into your operating process when scheduling technicians and you want to extend the operating hours. You should add an entitlement management tab to the call center app so the agents can access this and have list views and see on the records what entitlements are applied to an account. And you customize service contract fields and page layouts so agents can see the details of a service contract, display contract line item related lists on the service contract if you're using this in that org. And you can use entitlement templates for predefined support contracts. So if the entitlement processes are the same or very similar, you use templates just like you do with work order templates. Or with work types. And then you train agents to create entitlements from the related lists. Here's the setup guide if you want to go through the whole setup for entitlements. Okay, so this was assets. Now, I was surprised, but there was a product and price book question in the test as well. That's why I included this in here. So the scenario, if I remember that right, was that a technician works in Europe and he has clients in multiple countries, the clients use different currencies, and the technicians should be able to provide a quote on replacing a part to clients that have that are in different countries using different currencies. I think that was about the scenario, and they gave you different options on what does the technician need to do in order to make this happen, or how would you configure this as an architect to make this happen. Basically, you have to pull products and price books into the occasion. So the standard price book is the master list for all price books, and you create first that standard price book, and then you apply different currencies. How you enable multiple currencies, here's the setup guide. There's also a video. If you have a YouTube video, I couldn't find any trailhead trails around this. So I would encourage you just watch the YouTube video on how to add the price book and how to enable the multiple currencies. And then if you want to go deeper and really do that, click on the link here, and here's the setup instructions from the help files. Yeah. And to understand that you need to use price books and in combination with multiple currencies will help you. Here's an example. So if you sell a domestic or international customers at different prices, you can create two custom price books, a domestic one and an international one. Okay, and a lot of you might be very versed with Sales Cloud, so you already know all about this. So how do you use price books on work orders now? It might make sense to add a price book to certain work orders, especially if your field technician or your service operation has employees such as contractors and technicians that want to upsell and cross-sell. So the price book gives the user the ability to search through the price book on products and log the use or the sale of the product throughout completing a work order. But before you can track products consumed by your technician, you must first associate the service resource with a location. Locations are the areas where the products can be stored. So, and we get deeper into this with inventory management on Tuesday, but mobile locations can be configured to represent a vehicle, for example, that the technician uses to store and transport tools and supplies, which are the products that you want to sell and upsell. And to learn more on how to set this up, I refer you to the later section of the workbook. There is a section called Track Your Technician's Inventory, but we go into details with this on Tuesday. Key to understand here is that you need to give them access to price books on the work order object, so when they are at the client side, they can get direct access to a certain item that they might need to sell because it needs replacement, and have information about list price, unit price, and are able, you know, to close out the work order because they're able to sell them this piece. On the mobile side, so Field Service Lightning was really designed to be a tool for field workers or mobile workers, and it's really intuitive and designed to work offline. And we are empowering basically our workforce by giving them the option to cross-sell and upsell directly from the mobile device. So we are enabling them to add a new opportunity or a new lead, for example, using quick actions on the work order. So this way the technician can quickly create a record that can be then addressed by sales to close out the deal. And if you're looking to complete the sale on site, the technician needs to have the ability to sell products from the van stock. So you will need to set up a quoting process. This is where CPQ comes into play. So for that, again, you need the plus license basically on the contractor or the technician side. So you have the ability to add CPQ. And you can create a quote from a template directly on a mobile device, and you can update line items. This can also be done within Salesforce One, but we are really encouraging our users to use the native iOS app or the native Android app. Yeah, and we are able to deep link Salesforce Mobile with out-of-the-box products such as CPQ, so you can pull quote functionality directly into the mobile device. And then you can also use products consumed when you calculate the cost for a customer for during an installation or an implementation. And the consumed products that the technician can directly apply on the mobile device will then take the product out of the van stock, so to manage the inventory. Yeah, so this is the insight into price books and mobile. Okay, so what's the next one? Okay, so I think we're at the end of today's day. We have like 6 minutes left, so let me see if there's any questions. Okay, pull up questions, 1 second. Here. Okay, we do have some questions. Let me pull them over here.
Yeah, Katrina, I've answered a bunch of them, but there's a few I left for you.
Okay, advance the slides. Oh, this was in the beginning when the slides were not moving.
Oh, I cleared. Oh, that's interesting. They show up. Just
or read them out, the ones that you left.
yeah, unclick the show answered questions, right?
Show answered.
At the top left.
Yeah. Show answered questions.
Okay, there have been a lot of questions
yeah.
about when the deck is going to be available and when the recording is going to be available.
So the recording.
Yeah. On the partner community, and you're going to send an email follow-up, so we can stop asking that question.
Yeah, okay. So to summarize it for everyone, you will get the email with the link to the recording in 3 hours. So usually after the session, I have to compile it and upload it. It always takes a little bit. In 3 hours, you can stream it from GoToWebinar, and it will also be in the partner community in the Field Service Experts chatter group. The slide deck is there is the version from December there. I'm going to upload this version now as well. So in an hour or two, you have the slide deck there as well. And so what is the difference between assets and products, for example? So a product is something you as a company have on your price list. An asset is actually a product that a customer actually acquired. So a product can turn into an asset once it is purchased and one of your clients takes ownership. So I sell refrigerators. I have a price book with a list of products. My refrigerator is in that price list as a product. Once one of my customers purchases that refrigerator, that product shows up as an asset under that account or contact record. So it turns into an asset once it's purchased. And in field service lighting, it's really important for us to have that asset information. So when we are sending someone out, we get a field support call. We need to know what product exactly did they purchase and what version of the product. So we have to make sure that the technician that is going has the right skill set to repair it, but also the right spare parts if something is broken. So that's why asset information are crucial. And the deeper we can define the asset, so going down to the asset hierarchy level, the better we are able to equip the technician on the skill side and on the part side to repair something. So let me do this. So the orgs I created are for 90 days, and we cannot extend them. What you can do is, so what I'll do for you is I will send you the trial first template that you can apply to your own org. The training orgs are allowed for us to give to you for 90 days, and after the 90 days they will expire. And you have to imagine we run this training for hundreds and hundreds of partners, so it would be a part-time job to extend all these orgs. But I'll give you the current trial first template, and once the spring release is out, I will give you the new one. So you can actually just go in, create a developer org for free, and through the Environment Hub as a partner, you can open up a ticket to have that org supersized and apply a trial first template. So you can create your supersized developer org that has 20 licenses. So the normal developer org only has 2. The supersized one has 20, and that one doesn't expire. And then you can, build this and keep it and use it to demo it. Also, if you do have bigger accounts you're trying to win right now and you're trying to sell field service, you can actually request through the partner manager and the team on the account a demo org as a partner to demo specific things to a client, but it needs to be related to an opportunity, okay? That would not go through us. That goes through the Salesforce account team and maybe your partner manager. Okay, so this was this one. Milestones. Yeah. Can we define and track a milestone related to technician visit within 2 hours, for example? So yes, we can track milestones, and the milestones are what running the case timer. So the field technician has a visible display of the SLA or the milestones that are running, and the agent in the call center that created the case has the same visual display. To get down into the milestone level, you need to look, the agent has better visibility. So the field technician sees the case timer running. The agent has insight into the details of what the, when the milestones are being missed, what is triggered, who is being escalated this to, and so forth. And you can set milestones to 2 hours to 5 minutes. So depending on how you set up your entitlement process, you can track on an hourly basis or even on smaller increments. I hope that answered that one. Let me see. Here, do users with field service licenses need a Service Cloud license as well? So no, you only need one Service Cloud license in the org. You don't need a Service Cloud license for each user. The technician will get access to the field service functionality they need to do their job, and the dispatcher will get access to the right Service Cloud objects that they need to do their job. And that includes, for example, knowledge. It includes entitlements. So there is no worrying about, I need also Service Cloud license on top. You just need to have at least one in the whole org to make everything work. Everything a technician needs on the Service Cloud side is included in the field service technician license, and everything a dispatcher needs is included in their license. So I hope this answers. If an installer has some events in the calendar, for example, training or company meetings, are those be visible in the Gantt in order to optimize the scheduling? So, so there is ways you can define non-working times, and that could be training, it could be breaks, for example. When we're going into scheduling and configuration on Tuesday, so Daniel will show you exactly how this can be done, and I'll make sure I'll bring this question back, no, on Monday. I'll bring this question back on Monday so you can actually see it and demo it. But yeah, the answer is yes, you can block out time frames on a technician's day to do certain other things, and during which that person should not be traveling or should not be scheduled to do on-site work. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kurt. So deck is uploaded. Yeah, let me see what else I find. Could we connect field service with marketing campaigns? I would want to know what the use case is behind this, and maybe you can email me. So out of the box, we have the ability to add up to 200 custom objects to whatever you're building out here, and everything runs on the platform. So I'm sure there is a way we can do that, but I would be interested in about the specific use case or the idea you have. Do you want to make the field technician informed about marketing messages that were sent out using Marketing Cloud about discounts, things like that? I need to know the use case a little bit, and then I can tell you what is possible, okay? So yeah, feel free to connect, and you can also ask this with a little bit more detail in the Field Service Experts chatter group in the partner community. So let me see this on the bottom here. Is there a standard events object link which is available in Dispatcher? An event objects link. So we don't, as part of our field service specific object model, there is not a specific event object. So we have service appointments, you know, and we have work orders and work types and all these things. Maybe you can explain a little bit more what you're trying to achieve here. That would be good. Is there any other overlap in terms of certification questions? So actually, this is a good question. The things I ran into was entitlements, assets, price books, and the rest was very specific to field service. And a lot of questions around how would you use work orders and work order line items on a scenario level. So if you study assets and entitlements on that level, what is in the stack here, and watch the video, you will be all set, I think. However, if you see other questions, so I took one test, they don't share the questions with us, and there's a bigger pool of questions, and you run into something that we are not covering, please let us know as well so we can extend this training. Okay, do we need to go ahead and do anything in the workbook? So you can start with the workbook now, but if you wait until Monday, you will understand the scheduling and optimization a little bit better. But I know a lot of you are very hands-on and you're probably anxious to get going. So if you got your login to your org, just go for it. Just do the trailhead trails first. So you have a little bit better overview on the configuration side on where is what. Okay, we insert this one, then insert this one. Here, does it include the ability to view cases if the dispatcher doesn't have the Service Cloud license? So the dispatcher can click through. So usually, depends on how you create it. Usually there is a case created, and then from that case you create a work order. So usually the work order is exposed to the dispatcher, and with the right access level, security settings, they can also see the case. And sometimes there's only some, we have customer scenarios where they're trying to avoid cases and they just want to create work orders as well. But best practice using really Service Cloud underneath would be to create a case first. Does it include the ability to view cases? Oh yeah, I insert this one. Which chatter group do we need to join? So the chatter group is the Field Service Experts chatter group in the partner community. There's only one Field Service Experts chatter group. I might put one in place just for training purposes to get, I created it this morning, and we'll move some content in there because this training is running now so often, so we can use one just to answer questions around the training. So you might find two field service chatter groups, but these are the two. The workbook will be posted, yes. So Field Service Experts chatter group. We haven't received any training material or workbook. So if you registered, it depends on if you registered using our registration site, our Visualforce page. If someone just passed on the link within your company and you just registered for the webinar, I will make sure that anyone who attended the webinar today, if you got the link in a different way, that I will email everyone a follow-up email with the links to the recording and the link to the workbook and the chatter group. Okay, I think that's the most efficient way.
Katrina, you might want to also highlight the importance of Service Cloud certification, part of our registration
Right,
process.
right,
Verifying
yeah.
aptitude and ability to attend these. So, you know, the expectation is that you come in with a lot of experience, especially around Service Cloud, by having that cert. So then you're ready to take on the next challenge of FSL. So one of the pieces we do in our registration process is to verify everyone has Service Cloud certification. So if you're just passing on the link to the webinar and have attended without us doing that validation step, then we wouldn't have sent you a link anyway to get an org.
Correct, absolutely.
So that's a plug to get your Service Cloud cert if you don't have it.
Yes, yeah. So if anyone who registered officially in the Service Cloud Certified should have received the training org, you might have registered and received an email from me saying, please verify your Service Cloud certification. And if you were not able to do so, you didn't get the training org. So you need to get the Service Cloud cert done first. However, you can of course attend and watch the recording, and you get access to the workbook in the partner community. So I'll email the link to the chatter group to everyone who's on the attendee list here today, but you can only get the the training org if you have that certification. Okay, yeah, so Ankur said he is Service Cloud certified, and then you go for it. so let me know if you are Service Cloud certified and have not received a training org, okay? But I think we're already a little bit over our time, and I think I'm actually missing a meeting right now. So we have to conclude the session for today. Be back on Tuesday. If there's any questions that we didn't answer today yet, come back and ask them on Tuesday. And with that, I hope you all have a great weekend.
Or actually, right, they could use the FSL certification chatter group to do collaboration. Maybe they could help their peers to answer questions that they might have.
Exactly, that too. And so that's why I was thinking maybe we do the, so here's the general chatter group, but I created this morning one, and it might, well, we'll think about it, but I have one now that is called Field Service Certification Training. And maybe we can use this one specifically just to collaborate with the trainees. So we keep the training back and forth out of our technical chatter group. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Okay, good. So you'll get links to both, and we'll let you know which way we're moving forward. Have a great weekend, everyone, and hopefully we see you on Monday. If you are certified and you did not get an org, email me. Make sure you also email me your certification email, and I'll get you an org. Okay, thanks. Bye. Okay, end meeting.